The cargo ship Starling moved slowly through the Kilos Nebula. It was an old ship, not very big, and it had seen many years of work. The crew was small, just 5 people who had been working together for a long time. Captain Daniel Hayes sat in his chair on the bridge. He was a man of 42 years with gray in his hair and tired eyes. He had been flying cargo ships for 20 years. Most days were boring. They picked up goods from one station and brought them to another. Nothing special ever happened. But today was different. Amy Torres was the navigator. She was young, only 26, with dark hair and quick eyes that never missed anything on the scanner. She looked at her screen and saw something strange. "Captain," she said, "there's something out there. Small object. It is not moving on its own." Daniel looked at his own screen. The object was tumbling slowly through space. It was in a field of old wreckage from some ancient battle. Ships had fought here long ago, and their broken pieces still floated in the darkness. "What is it?" Daniel asked. "I do not know," Amy said. "It is too small to be a ship. Maybe a shuttle or an escape pod. But the material is strange. My scanner cannot identify it." Daniel thought about this. They were on a salvage run. Their job was to find valuable things floating in space and bring them back to sell. This object could be worth something. "Take us closer," he said. The Starling moved toward the object. As they got near, everyone on the bridge became quiet. The thing they saw was not human-made. That was clear right away. It was shaped like an egg, about the size of a small shuttle. The outer shell was not metal. It looked almost alive. Soft light moved across its surface, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Colors shifted from blue to purple to green. "What in the stars is that?" said Kevin Shaw. He was the engineer, a big man with rough hands and a loud voice. He had fixed everything on the Starling at least twice, but he had never seen anything like this. Dr. Lisa Grant came to the bridge. She was the ship's doctor, a small woman with gray hair and gentle hands. She had been reading in her cabin when she felt the ship change direction. "Is that organic?" she asked, looking at the screen. "It looks like it," Amy said. "The hull is giving off life signs. Very weak, but there is something alive in there." Daniel made his decision quickly. "Kevin, get your tools. We are going to cut it open." They brought the object into the cargo bay. Up close, it was even more strange. The surface was warm to the touch and seemed to breathe. Kevin ran his hand across it and pulled back in surprise. "It feels like skin," he said. He used a cutting laser, working carefully. He did not want to hurt whatever was inside. The shell was tough, but it gave way after 10 minutes of work. When he made a hole big enough to see through, he stopped and called for the others. Inside the pod was a chamber filled with blue liquid, and floating in that liquid was a girl. She was not human. Her skin was soft purple, like the color of flowers at sunset. Small ridges ran along the sides of her face, from her forehead to her jaw. 2 thin antennae lay flat against her silver hair. But she had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face with 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. She looked like she might be 15 or 16 years old. She also looked like she was dying. The blue liquid was almost gone. The machines around her were dark and broken. Lisa checked the readings on her medical scanner and shook her head. "She has been in here too long," Lisa said. "This pod was meant to keep her alive, but something went wrong. She is very weak. Can you help her?" Daniel asked. Lisa did not answer right away. She looked at the alien girl floating in the chamber. She knew nothing about this species. She had no medicine designed for alien biology. She did not even know what this girl needed to breathe. "I do not know," she said honestly, "but I will try." They moved the girl to the medical bay. Lisa worked through the night. She took samples of the girl's blood and found that it was similar to human blood but with important differences. She tested different medicines in small amounts, watching for bad reactions. Kevin stayed with her, helping move equipment. Amy brought food and water that Lisa did not touch. Daniel sat outside the door, waiting. The girl's heart stopped twice. Both times, Lisa brought her back. She made new medicines based on what she learned. She adjusted oxygen levels. She kept the girl warm when her body temperature dropped off by morning. The alien girl opened her eyes. They were large and violet, like two bright gems. She looked around the room in fear and tried to sit up, but she was too weak. Strange sounds came from her mouth, words in a language no one understood. Amy came forward slowly. She sat down beside the bed and held up her hands to show she meant no harm. "It is okay," Amy said softly. "You are safe. We will not hurt you." The girl did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. She stopped struggling and lay back down. Her eyes moved from face to face, studying each person in the room. Over the next few days, they learned to communicate. Kevin built a translation program using the sounds the girl made and matching them with pictures on a datapad. It was slow work, but soon they could understand simple words. Her name was Vera. She was a princess of a people called the Volanti. Her mother was Queen Seraphil, ruler of a great empire far away. 30 years ago, enemies had attacked during an important ceremony. Vera and her 11 sisters had been put into escape pods and sent into space to save them. Something had gone wrong with Vera's pod. It had flown too far into a part of space her people had never explored. For 30 years, she had drifted alone in the dark, kept alive by the failing machines. When she finished her story, tears ran down her purple cheeks. Amy held her hand and said nothing. There were no words that could make such pain smaller. Daniel gathered his crew in the cargo bay that night. He spread out a star chart and pointed to a region far beyond Federation space. "This is where she says her home is," he said. "It will take us months to get there. We will use all our fuel. We might not be able to get back." He looked at each person. Kevin, who had a family waiting for him at home. Lisa, who was saving money for her retirement. Amy, who had her whole life ahead of her. "I will not order anyone to come," Daniel said. "This is a choice. We can take her to the nearest station and let someone else deal with this. Or we can try to bring her home ourselves." Kevin spoke first. "She has been alone for 30 years. I am not leaving her with strangers." Lisa nodded. "I did not save her life just to abandon her." Amy smiled. "I always wanted to see what was beyond the maps." Daniel felt something warm in his chest. He had a good crew. "Then it is decided," he said. "We are going to find her mother." The Starling turned away from Federation space and flew into the unknown. Behind them, the nebula faded to a soft glow. Ahead, the stars stretched on forever, full of mystery and danger. And in the medical bay, a lost princess finally slept without nightmares, knowing that she was no longer alone. Queen Seraphil sat alone in her throne room. The great hall was dark and cold. Once, this place had been full of light and music. Now it was silent, like a tomb. She had not left this room in 15 years. The throne was made of black stone, carved with the symbols of her ancestors. Around it stood 12 empty pedestals. Each one was meant to hold a royal egg during the sacred continuation ceremony. Each one represented one of her daughters. All 12 were empty. All 12 had been empty for 30 years. Seraphil was old by Volanti standards. Her people lived for many centuries, and she had seen 400 years pass. Her skin, once bright blue, had faded to pale gray. Her eyes, once sharp and fierce, were now tired and dull. She had stopped caring about her empire long ago. What did land and power matter when her bloodline was dead? Her daughters were gone, scattered across the stars in escape pods. Her advisors had searched for years and found nothing. Most believed the princesses were dead. Seraphil believed it too. But believing it and accepting it were different things. The door to the throne room opened. High Advisor Theron entered slowly. He was an old male Volante with white ridges along his face and careful eyes. He had served the queen for 200 years. "My queen," he said, "there is news." "I do not care about news," Seraphil said. Her voice was flat and empty. "This news is different." Theron came closer. "A ship has been detected at the edge of our space. It is not Volante. The design is unknown, primitive. But it is broadcasting a signal." "What signal?" Theron paused. His hands were shaking. "The royal distress frequency. The one used by the escape pods. The one that has not been used in 30 years. Seraphil did not move. She did not breathe. For a long moment, she simply sat there as the words entered her mind. Then she stood. Her legs were weak from years of sitting, but she did not care. She walked toward Theron with steps that grew stronger and faster. "Show me," she said. The Starling floated in empty space, surrounded by Volante warships. Captain Daniel Hayes stood on his bridge and tried not to show his fear. The alien ships were huge. Each one was longer than 10 Starlings put together. Their hulls were organic, like the escape pod, grown rather than built. They moved through space like living creatures, smooth and graceful, and they were pointing their weapons at his ship. A communication channel opened. A face appeared on the screen, a Volante male with dark blue skin and hard eyes. "Unknown vessel," the alien said. "You have entered Volante space and broadcast a royal frequency. Explain yourself or be destroyed." Daniel raised his hands. "We come in peace. We found something in deep space. An escape pod. There was someone inside." "Who?" Daniel stepped aside. Vera came forward, still weak but standing on her own feet. She wore her torn clothes from the pod, and her silver hair was messy. But there was no mistaking what she was. "My name is Vera," she said in her own language. "Seventh daughter of Queen Seraphil. I am coming home." The Volante commander stared at her. His mouth opened but no words came out. Behind him, other crew members crowded around to see. Then the commander fell to his knees. "Princess," he whispered, "you are alive." The news spread across the fleet in seconds. Every ship began broadcasting the same message to the homeworld. The words repeated over and over, carried by 100 signals at once. One of the lost daughters had returned. Queen Seraphil's shuttle arrived 4 hours later. It was the fastest journey she had ever made, pushing her small ship to speeds that threatened to tear it apart. She did not care about the danger. She only cared about seeing for herself. The shuttle docked with the Starling. The airlock opened, and Seraphil stepped into the human ship. She was tall, taller than any human. Her skin was pale gray, but her eyes burned with an intensity that had not been there for decades. She wore simple black clothes, not the robes of a queen. She had not stopped to change. Vera stood at the end of the corridor, supported by Amy on one side and Lisa on the other. She looked at the tall figure walking toward her, and her violet eyes filled with tears. "Mother?" she said. Seraphil stopped. Her whole body was trembling. This was her daughter, her little Vera, who had been only 3 years old when the attack came, who had been put into an escape pod and sent away to save her life, who had been lost for 30 years. "My child," Seraphil whispered. Then she ran. The ancient queen ran like a young woman, crossing the distance in seconds. She fell to her knees in front of her daughter and wrapped her arms around her. They held each other and cried. Vera sobbed into her mother's shoulder saying words in Volanthi that needed no translation. Seraphel stroked her daughter's silver hair and said her name over and over, as if afraid she might disappear. The crew of the Starling stood back and watched. Amy was crying too. Even Kevin had wet eyes, though he would never admit it. Later, in the Starling's small meeting room, Seraphel sat with her daughter and the humans. She listened as they told the story of finding the pod, of Lisa working through the night to save Vera's life, of the long journey across unknown space. Why? She asked when they finished. Why did you do this? You did not know my daughter. You did not know our people. You had nothing to gain. Daniel shrugged. She needed help. We could help. That was enough. Seraphel studied him with her ancient eyes. She had lived 400 years. She had met many species, made many deals, fought many wars. She understood greed and fear and ambition. Those were the forces that moved the universe, but these humans confused her. They had risked their lives for a stranger. They had traveled for months through dangerous space. They had brought her daughter home and asked for nothing in return. What do you want? She asked. Name your reward. Land, wealth, technology. Anything in my power to give. Daniel looked at his crew. They looked back at him. Then he turned to the Queen. We just want to go home, he said. Safe passage back to our own space. That is all. Seraphel laughed. It was a strange sound, rusty from years without use. She had not laughed since before the attack. You are strange creatures, she said. You cross the stars to return what is lost, and you ask for nothing but the road home. She stood and looked out the small window at the stars. I will give you your safe passage, she said. But I would like you to stay for a time. There is to be a celebration, the Festival of Return. It has not been held in 30 years. I would be honored if you would attend. Daniel hesitated. They had been away from home for a long time. Their families were waiting. Their lives were on hold. But then he looked at Vera, who was holding her mother's hand with a smile that made her whole face glow. He thought about everything they had been through together. We would be honored to stay, he said. The Starling followed the royal shuttle to the Volanthi homeworld. As they approached, Amy pressed her face to the window like a child. The planet was beautiful. Blue and green and purple, wrapped in swirls of white cloud. Cities floated in the upper atmosphere, connected by bridges of light. Ships moved between them like fish swimming through water. It is amazing, Amy breathed. Vera stood beside her. I had forgotten, she said softly. I was so young when I left. I remembered only pieces. But now I see it again, and it is more beautiful than my memories. They landed at the royal palace, a structure that grew from the ground like a great tree. Its walls were organic, living material that shifted and moved. Flowers bloomed along its surface, opening and closing in patterns that formed words of welcome. The Festival of Return lasted for 10 days. The Volanthi celebrated with music that humans had never heard, with lights that danced through the sky, with food that tasted of colors and dreams and through it all. Queen Seraphel held her daughter close and refused to let her go. But behind her joy, there was also pain. Because Vera was only one. 11 other daughters were still lost somewhere in the darkness between stars. On the last night of the festival, Seraphel called Captain Hayes to a private meeting. She sat in a simple room, far from the throne, and looked at him with eyes that held both gratitude and desperate hope. I have another request, she said. Not a demand, not an order. A request from a mother who has lost too much. Daniel waited. You found Vera when my own people could not, Seraphel said. Your small ship went where our large ones could not go. Your doctor saved my daughter when our medicine might have failed. She leaned forward. I want to hire you, she said, to search for my other daughters. the ones still lost in the dark. Daniel felt the weight of her words. This was not a simple cargo run. This was a mission that could take years. That could be impossible. But he thought of Vera, alone in her pod for 30 years. He thought of 10 more princesses, perhaps still alive, perhaps still waiting. "I need to ask my crew," he said. He found them in the garden, watching alien flowers bloom under 3 moons. He told them what the Queen had asked. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Kevin grinned. "I was getting bored anyway," he said. Amy laughed. "I want to see more of the universe." Lisa nodded slowly. "There might be more lives to save." Daniel smiled. He had the best crew in any galaxy. He returned to the Queen with their answer. "We will do it," he said. "We will help you find your daughters." Seraphel closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." The search was about to begin. The Starling left Volanthi space 6 weeks later. The small cargo ship had been changed. Kevin had worked with Volanthi engineers to improve the engines. The hull was stronger. The sensors were sharper. But it was still the same ship, still small and fast and able to go where larger vessels could not. Queen Seraphel gave them everything they needed. Star charts that showed where the escape pods might have gone. Fuel reserves that would last for years. A special communication device that connected directly to the royal throne, so they could report what they found. She also gave them something more valuable than any of that information. The escape pods had been programmed to fly in random directions. This was to stop enemies from tracking them. But Seraphel had kept records of the programming. With math and time, the paths could be calculated. Her scientists had worked for weeks. They produced 11 possible trajectories, one for each missing daughter. The paths spread across the galaxy like the branches of a great tree. "Some of these lead to dangerous places," Seraphel warned. "Enemy territory, dead zones, uncharted space. You may face threats we cannot help you with." Daniel nodded. "We understand." Vera came to see them off. She stood at the docking port, holding Amy's hands. "Find them," she said. "Find my sisters. Bring them home." "We will try," Amy promised. The Starling flew into the stars. The first trajectory took them to a debris field near an old battlefield. They searched for 2 weeks, scanning every piece of wreckage. Finally, Kevin found something on his sensors. It was a pod, or what remained of one. The escape vessel had been hit by an asteroid long ago. The impact had cracked it open like an egg. Whatever was inside had been lost to the vacuum of space. There was no body, no stasis chamber, nothing to bring back. Daniel sent a message to Queen Seraphel. He did not know what to say, so he said only the truth. The first princess was gone. The Queen's response came an hour later. Her voice was steady, but Daniel could hear the pain underneath. "Continue the search," she said. "Find the others." They flew on. The second trajectory led to a small moon orbiting a gas giant. The world was bare rock, with no air and no water. Nothing could live there, but something had landed there once. They found the pod at the bottom of a crater. It was intact, undamaged by the landing. Kevin opened it carefully, hoping to find a princess in stasis. The chamber inside was empty. Lisa studied the scene with her medical scanner. She found traces of life, old cells left behind on surfaces. She found marks on the inner walls, scratches made by fingernails. She woke up, Lisa said quietly. The stasis failed, and she woke up. She was trapped in the pod. Amy looked away. "How long?" Lisa checked her readings. Based on the decay, about 2 years. No one spoke. They all understood what that meant. A young princess had woken up alone on a dead world. She had been trapped in her pod for 2 years before the end came. Daniel reported the news to the Queen. This time, he waited longer before she responded. She would have been Keelira, Seraphil said. My second daughter. She was always brave. I hope she did not suffer too long. The Starling continued its search. The third trajectory was the most dangerous yet. It led to a dying star system, where the central sun was expanding and consuming its planets. Gravity was unstable. Radiation was intense. Kevin calculated that any ship staying too long would be pulled into the star. We have maybe 6 hours, he said. Then we have to leave or we never leave. They found the pod in orbit around the star, tumbling slowly toward destruction. Kevin estimated it would crash into the flames within 10 years if left alone. Daniel made the call to attempt rescue. The next 4 hours were the most difficult of their lives. The Starling's hull groaned under the gravitational stress. Warning lights flashed constantly. Kevin worked the engines like a musician playing an instrument, adjusting thrust moment by moment to keep them stable. Amy guided them closer to the pod. Lisa prepared the medical bay. Daniel watched the clock counting down. They grabbed the pod with their cargo arm just as the ship began to shake apart. Kevin fired the engines at full power, pulling them away from the dying star. Metal screamed. Systems overloaded. For one terrible moment, Daniel thought they would not make it. Then they were free, flying away from the star, the pod secure in their hold. Lisa opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a princess. Her skin was pale violet, lighter than Vera's. Her silver hair was long and tangled. Her eyes were closed, and she did not move. Is she alive? Daniel asked. Lisa checked her scanner. Yes, but something is wrong. They brought the princess to the medical bay. Lisa worked for hours running tests, checking readings. Finally, she called the others together. Her name is Kitharis, Lisa said. Based on the Queen's records, she was the 4th daughter. She is alive, and her body is healthy. Then what is wrong? Amy asked. Lisa hesitated. Her stasis chamber was damaged sometime after launch. Instead of keeping her fully asleep, it kept her half awake. For 30 years, she has been trapped between sleeping and waking. Her mind could not handle it. Kevin's face went pale. What does that mean? It means she is broken, Lisa said softly. Her body is here, but her mind is not. She does not know where she is. She does not remember who she is. She may never recover. They brought Kitharis back to the queendom. When Seraphil saw her daughter, she did not cry with joy like she had with Vera. She stood very still, looking at the vacant eyes of her 4th child, and her face became stone. My baby, she whispered. What did they do to you? Kitharis did not respond. She looked through her mother like she was not there. The Volanthi court whispered that the humans were cursed, that every princess they found brought only sorrow. Some said the search should stop, but Seraphil silenced them with a single look. Continue, she told Daniel. Find the rest. Whatever state they are in, bring them home. I need to know. The Starling flew out again. The 4th trajectory took them far from Volanthi space. The 5th led nowhere. The pod lost to some unknown catastrophe. The 6th brought them to an asteroid, where they found only wreckage. The crew grew tired. The mission that had seemed noble now felt like a parade of grief. Every discovery brought more pain, not more hope. Amy stopped smiling. Kevin stopped making jokes. Lisa worked in silence, preparing for patients who arrived already lost. One night, Daniel found his crew gathered in the cargo bay. They were sitting in a circle, not talking, just being together in the quiet. He sat down with them. I know this is hard, he said. I know it feels hopeless. But there are still more paths to search. More chances. What if they are all like this? Amy asked. What if we only find death? Daniel did not have an answer. He thought about the Queen, waiting at home for news that never seemed to be good. He thought about Vera, hoping to meet sisters she barely remembered. Then, at least their mother will know, he said. She has spent 30 years wondering. Not knowing is its own kind of pain. Even bad news is better than no news. Lisa nodded slowly. He is right. We owe her the truth, whatever it is. Kevin sighed. I joined this crew to help people. Even if all we can do is bring closure, that is still help. Amy wiped her eyes. Okay, let us keep going. The Starling flew on. The seventh trajectory was different from the start. The calculations showed that this pod had traveled farther than any other, into a region of space that no Volanthi had ever explored. There is something out there, Amy said, looking at her scanner. A civilization. Multiple planets. Large population. Daniel frowned. Friendly? I do not know. We have never met them. They approached carefully, keeping their ship small and quiet. What they found amazed them. The civilization was called the Korath Imperium. Their ships were silver and sharp, built for war. Their worlds were covered in cities and factories. They controlled dozens of star systems, and somewhere in their territory, a Volanthi princess might still be alive. This changes things, Kevin said. We cannot just fly in and search. They might shoot us down. Daniel agreed. They needed more information before they could continue. He sent a message to Queen Seraphil, explaining what they had found. Her response was immediate and grave. The Korath are old enemies of the Volanthi. We fought them centuries ago and pushed them back, but the hatred remains. If one of my daughters is in their space, she's in great danger. What do you want us to do? Daniel asked. There was a long pause. Find out if she's there, the Queen said. But be careful. If the Korath learn what you are looking for, they may use it against us. Daniel looked at his crew. They had come so far, found so much sadness. Now they faced the greatest challenge yet. Get some rest, he told them. Tomorrow, we enter enemy territory. The Starling slipped across the border into Korath space, small and silent, searching for a princess who might not want to be found. The Starling moved through Korath space like a ghost. Kevin had turned off every system that made noise or light. They flew dark, using only basic sensors, hiding from patrols. The Korath Imperium was not like the Volanthi Queendom. Where the Volanthi built organic ships that moved like living things, the Korath built machines of war. Their vessels were silver metal, covered in weapons, sharp and dangerous. Amy watched the scanner with wide eyes. There are so many of them, she said. Patrols everywhere. Stay calm, Daniel said. We are small. They're looking for threats, not cargo ships. They slipped between patrol routes, jumping from asteroid field to nebula to dead zone. Kevin plotted each move carefully, calculating how to stay invisible. The trajectory led them deep into Korath territory, to a planet near the Imperium's inner systems. It was a populated world, covered in cities and military bases. The pod landed here, Amy said. 30 years ago. Daniel frowned. A Volanthi princess landing on a Korath world. How did she survive? Maybe she did not, Kevin said quietly. But they had to know for sure. Daniel made a dangerous choice. He broadcast the royal distress frequency, the same one Vera's pod had used. If the princess was alive and had any way to receive the signal, she would hear it. They waited for 3 hours. Nothing happened. Daniel was about to give up when the communication panel lit up. An incoming message. The voice that came through was speaking Volanthi, but with a strange accent. The words were slow, as if the speaker had not used the language in a long time. Who are you? How did you get this frequency? Daniel answered carefully. We are from the Starling, a human ship. We are searching for the lost daughters of Queen Seraphil. We found one already and brought her home. We are looking for the others. Silence. Then the voice came back, sharper now. Seraphil is alive? The queendom still stands? Yes. Your mother has been waiting for 30 years. She never stopped hoping. More silence. When the voice spoke again, it was thick with emotion. I never thought I would hear those words. I accepted long ago that everyone I knew was dead. They are not dead, Daniel said. And they want you to come home. The meeting happened on a small moon between Korath space and unclaimed territory. Daniel brought his whole crew, not knowing what to expect. The woman who arrived was clearly Volanti. Her skin was light purple, her hair silver, her ridges delicate along her face. But she wore Korath armor, heavy plates of silver metal that covered her from neck to feet. Her eyes were hard and careful, the eyes of someone who had learned to survive in a hostile place. My name is Alindra, she said. I was the 5th daughter of Queen Seraphil. I was 7 years old when the attack came. She told them her story. Her pod had crashed on the Korath planet 30 years ago. She had been found by a military patrol and taken prisoner. The Korath had recognized her species as enemies and thrown her in a prison camp. She had been 7 years old, alone, surrounded by aliens who hated her kind. I should have died, Alindra said. Most prisoners do not last a year. But I was stubborn. I watched. I learned. I adapted. She had learned the Korath language. She had studied their culture, their politics, their way of thinking. When other prisoners saw enemies, she saw teachers. Over time, she had earned small freedoms, then larger ones. She had served as a translator, then an advisor, then something more. I am now a counselor to Governor Torith, she said. I help him manage his region. I have power, influence, a life. Amy stared at her. You joined them? The people who imprisoned you? Alindra's eyes flashed. I survived them. There is a difference. When I landed here, I was a child with nothing. I had to become something else or die. So I became something else. She looked at Daniel. I built a life here. It is not the life I would have chosen, but it is mine. What you are asking me to do is leave everything behind. Your mother is waiting for you, Daniel said. My mother is a stranger I barely remember. The Volanthi are a people I have not seen in 30 years. Alindra shook her head. You are asking me to abandon everything I have for a dream from my childhood. I am asking you to come home. Alindra was silent for a long moment. Then she said, let me think about it. I need time. 3 days later, Korath warships surrounded the Starling. Daniel was dragged from his ship by soldiers in silver armor. His crew was taken too, each of them pulled away and put in separate cells. He did not know where they were or if they were alive. The interrogation room was cold and bright. A Korath officer stood over him, asking questions in a harsh voice. Who are you working for? What is your connection to the traitor Alindra? What do you know about Volanti defenses? Daniel said nothing. He did not know the answers they wanted, and even if he did, he would not have given them. The officer hit him. Blood ran from Daniel's lip. The questions continued. Hours passed. Maybe days. Daniel lost track of time in the endless cycle of questions and pain. Then everything changed. The door to his cell opened. Standing there was Alindra, still in her Korath armor, but with something different in her eyes. Come with me, she said. Quickly. Daniel stumbled after her. His body hurt everywhere, but he forced himself to move. They went through hallways and past doors, avoiding guards who should have stopped them. What is happening? Daniel asked. I am getting you out, Alindra said. I spent 30 years building alliances in this place. Not everyone agrees with what the military is doing. I called in every favor I have. They reached the docking bay. The Starling was there, damaged but whole. Amy, Kevin, and Lisa were already aboard, freed by other sympathizers. "We need to go now," Kevin said from the pilot's seat. "Patrols are already searching." Alindra stopped at the airlock. "I cannot come with you," she said. Daniel grabbed her arm. "You have to. If you stay, they will know you helped us. They will kill you." Alindra smiled. It was a sad smile, full of acceptance. "I know. But if I leave, my allies will suffer. The people who help free you will be punished. I cannot let that happen." Then what was the point of all this? The point was to give you a chance to escape. Alindra pressed something into his hand. It was a data chip. "This contains everything I know about the Korath military. Patrol routes, fleet positions, defense codes. Give it to my mother. It may help her prepare for what is coming." "What is coming?" "War." Alindra's eyes were calm. "The Korath have been preparing to attack the Volanthi for years. My arrest has given them an excuse to move sooner. You need to warn my mother. Tell her to ready her defenses." Alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Go," Alindra said. Now, Daniel did not want to leave her, but there was no choice. He ran onto the Starling. Kevin fired the engines. Amy sealed the hatch. As they pulled away from the station, Daniel looked through the window. He saw Korath soldiers surrounding Alindra. He saw her stand straight and proud as they took her. She did not fight. She did not run. She simply waited for them to reach her. The last thing Daniel saw before they jumped to hyperspace was Alindra looking up at the Starling. She raised her hand in a small wave. Then she was gone. The Starling barely escaped. Korath warships chased them to the border, firing weapons that scarred the hull and knocked out half their systems. Kevin flew like a man possessed, dodging and weaving through asteroid fields and nebulae. When they finally crossed into neutral space, the crew collapsed from exhaustion. Daniel sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the data chip in his hand. Alindra had sacrificed everything to give them this. Her freedom, her life, her future. "We have to tell the Queen," Lisa said softly. Daniel nodded. "Set course for the Volanthi homeworld. Maximum speed." When they arrived, Queen Seraphel was waiting. She listened to their report in silence. When Daniel told her about Alindra, about her survival and her sacrifice, the Queen's face showed no emotion, but her hands were trembling. "My daughter is alive," she said, "and she saved you. She saved all of you at the cost of herself." "I am sorry," Daniel said. "I should have found a way to bring her back." Seraphel shook her head. "You did what you could. She made her choice. She is her mother's daughter after all." She took the data chip and studied it. "War is coming," she said. "Alindra has given us a weapon. We will use it well." She looked at Daniel with eyes that burned with new purpose. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. Now go rest. The search is not over. There are still more daughters to find." Daniel bowed his head. The mission continued, but somewhere in Korath space, a princess waited for her fate. And Daniel swore that someday he would find a way to bring her home too. The Korath Imperium demanded war. Their ambassador stood before the Volanthi Council, his silver armor gleaming under the throne room lights. His voice was cold and hard. "The spy Alindra has confessed to crimes against the Imperium. She claims connection to your queendom. We demand her surrender for execution, along with reparations for the damage she has caused." Queen Seraphel sat on her throne, her gray skin pale but her eyes bright. She had not slept since learning about Alindra, but grief had not weakened her. It had made her stronger. "My daughter is not a spy," she said. "She was a child when she landed on your world. A prisoner. She survived your prisons and rose despite your hatred. That is not a crime. That is strength. Then you refuse our demands? I refuse to abandon my blood. The ambassador smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then there will be war. He turned and left. The council chamber erupted in worried voices. War with the Korath would be devastating. The queendom was still weak from 30 years of searching and grief. Their fleet was scattered. Their allies had grown distant. Seraphel raised her hand for silence. "Send for the humans," she said. Daniel stood before the queen with his crew behind him. They were tired and bruised from their escape, but they stood straight and listened. "War is coming," Seraphel told them. "The Korath will attack within weeks. I must focus on defending my people. That there are still daughters out there, still waiting to be found." She looked at Daniel with desperate eyes. "Can you continue the search? Even as war burns around you?" Daniel thought about everything they had been through. The dead princesses. The broken ones. Alindra alone in enemy hands. The mission had cost them more than he had ever expected, but there was still hope. Still more paths to follow. "We will continue," he said. The starling flew out one more time. The next trajectory led them to a jungle world far from the war. The planet was hot and wet, covered in plants and creatures unlike anything in the Federation database. It had no cities, no technology, no signs of advanced life, but the pod had landed here. They followed the signal through thick forest and over rushing rivers. What they found shocked them. A village stood in a clearing. The buildings were simple, made of wood and leaves. The people who lived there were natives, primitive and gentle, with green skin and large eyes. And in the center of the village, sitting on a throne of flowers, was a Volanthi princess. Her name was Miravel. She was the 10th daughter, and she was healthy and whole. "I landed here when I was 8 years old," she told them, speaking perfect Volanthi despite decades away from her people. "The natives found me. They did not know what I was, but they cared for me. They raised me." She gestured at the village around her. "They think I am a goddess, a spirit from the sky. I have tried to tell them I am not, but they do not believe me." Daniel was amazed. "You have been here for 30 years, living as a goddess?" Miravel laughed. It was a bright sound, full of joy. "I have been here for 30 years, helping them grow, teaching them what I remember from my childhood, protecting them from dangers they do not understand." She smiled. "They gave me a home when I had nothing. I owe them everything." "Your mother is waiting for you," Amy said. "She has been searching for all her daughters." Miravel's smile faded. "My mother. I was so young when I left. I barely remember her face." "She remembers you," Lisa said gently. "She has never stopped hoping." The princess was quiet for a long time. She looked at her village, at the people who had become her family. Then she stood. "I will return with you," she said. "But I want to come back someday. These people need me." "I am sure the queen will allow it," Daniel said. When Miravel arrived at the Volanthi homeworld, she was greeted as a hero. Unlike the other returned daughters, she was healthy in body and mind. She had survived not through suffering, but through kindness. Given and received. Queen Seraphel held her 10th daughter and wept with joy for the first time in months. But the war was growing worse. The Korath had attacked 3 border systems. Volanthi ships were fighting back, but they were losing ground. The queendom was not strong enough to win alone. And then something unexpected happened. A message came from human space. Captain Daniel Hayes had sent a report to the Federation. When they first arrived at the Volanthi homeworld, he had described everything that had happened, from finding Vera to the threat of war with the Korath. The report had spread. People across the Federation had heard the story of the lost princesses and the human crew who searched for them. They had heard about Alindra's sacrifice and the Korath's cruelty. Now, they wanted to help. The first ship arrived a week after Maravel's return. It was a small diplomatic shuttle, carrying a woman named Nicole Peters. She was a Federation ambassador, sent to make official contact with the Volanti. "We cannot fight your war for you," Nicole told Queen Seraphil. "The Federation is not ready for that kind of conflict. But we can offer other things." Behind her came more ships. Not warships, but cargo vessels filled with food and medicine and supplies. Volunteers from dozens of human worlds who wanted to help refugees from the war zones. Then came the messages. Thousands of them, from ordinary humans across the Federation. Letters addressed to Queen Seraphil, expressing sympathy for her loss and admiration for her strength. Some included gifts, drawings from children, poems from writers, songs from musicians. The Korath did not know how to respond to this. They understood threats and demands and military posturing. But kindness confused them. Ambassador Nicole proposed a negotiation. Human mediators would oversee talks between the Volanti and the Korath. The Federation would guarantee the safety of all parties. The Korath laughed at first. These primitive humans thought they could stand between two ancient empires. But then more human ships arrived. Medical vessels that treated wounded soldiers from both sides. Relief ships that brought food to starving planets. The humans helped everyone, enemy and ally alike. The Korath soldiers began to talk. Why were these strangers helping them? What did they want? The humans asked for nothing in return, only the chance to end the fighting. It was a kind of warfare the Korath had never seen before. The negotiations lasted 3 months. During that time, the Starling continued its search. They found 2 more pods, both empty. Both lost to time and space. But they also found something else. Alindra was alive. She had been imprisoned after helping the Starling escape, but she had not been executed. The growing pressure from human diplomats had forced the Korath to keep her alive as a bargaining chip. When Daniel learned this, he went straight to Queen Seraphil. "She is part of the negotiations," he said. "We can get her back." The Korath want peace more than they want revenge. Seraphil's eyes blazed with hope she had not allowed herself to feel. "Then we will get her back," she said. The final treaty was signed 6 months after the war began. The Korath agreed to release Alindra and establish a formal border. The Volanti agreed to share certain trade routes, and the humans agreed to serve as neutral observers, ensuring both sides kept their promises. When Alindra walked off the prisoner transport and onto Volanti soil, she looked different than before. Her time in prison had aged her. Her silver hair had streaks of white. Her face had new lines, but her eyes still burned with the same fierce intelligence. Queen Seraphil waited at the landing pad. Mother and daughter stood facing each other, 2 strangers connected by blood and 30 years of separation. "You saved them," Seraphil said. "The humans. You sacrificed yourself to save them." Alindra nodded. "They were trying to bring me home. I could not let them die for that. You are my daughter. I am proud of you." For the first time since she was a child, Alindra allowed herself to be held by her mother. The festival of reunion lasted for 10 days. 4 daughters had returned: Vera, Kitharis, Maravel, and Alindra. 8 were still missing, perhaps lost forever. But for the first time in 30 years, there was hope. The crew of the Starling was honored in the Great Hall. Queen Seraphil stood before and spoke words that would be remembered for generations. "These humans came to us as strangers," she said. "They found our lost daughter in the void and brought her home. They searched for our other children when we could not. They faced danger and death and never asked for reward." She looked at Daniel. "I asked once what you wanted for your service. You asked only for the road home. But you have given us far more than we can ever repay." Daniel shrugged. He had never been good at ceremonies. "We did what anyone would do," he said. "No," Seraphil said. "You did what humans do. You helped strangers because it was right. You cared about people you had never met. You showed us that kindness can be as powerful as any weapon." She smiled. "The Volanthi will never forget. Wherever humans travel in our space, they will be welcomed as friends. Whatever you need from us, you will have. This is my promise, spoken as queen and as a mother who has her daughters back because of you." The starling left the Volanthi homeworld the next morning. Their cargo hold was full of gifts from the queen, including technical designs that would advance human technology by decades. But the most valuable thing they carried was not in the cargo hold. It was a promise. A connection between two peoples who had been strangers and were now friends. Daniel sat in the pilot seat, watching the stars stream past. Amy was